What's good, baby? Okay, we here. We live. Wait, I think we live. Yeah. Here we go. Let's see what it's doing. Welcome to episode 1 of Gaming Chair Podcast. We glad to have you. This right here is just what we gonna do for fun. We gonna watch some stuff. We gonna play some stuff. We gonna talk. You know, I'm hoping that one day we can get people on here and do some interviews. Maybe it'd be really cool. Talk to some big gamers, some big streamers. You know, however it go down. However it go down, it go down. You know what I mean? So this first episode is just, we're gonna watch the best games coming out in 2026. So that's what we're gonna do. Then we're gonna play Little Nightmares. And man, that's gotta go. That's gotta go. I kinda like it though. I kinda like it though, but it's not the vibe. I'm not feeling that. Alright, I think we kinda in the same boat with that. Okay, well, that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna get into the video. How about that? How about we just get straight into it? Let's see what the video popping about. And we're gonna get into, you know, what the game's looking like 2026. But I gotta do, I ain't gonna count. I need to see and make sure that this working. This first episode, I don't know how far this gonna go. But I for sure need to, I don't even know if I'm, oh, it's saying, alright, here we go. So I assume we good. I assume we live. I don't know. But we gonna go with it, and we gonna just, that's what we're gonna have to do. We're gonna have to just go with it and see what it is. That's how it's been. I might just assume it worked. I don't know. I can't do nothing else but that. Let's get into it, man.
Happy New Year, or almost New Year, or whatever time of year it is when you're watching this. For me, it is the very tail end of 2025, and I figured this is as good a time as any to take a look ahead at some of the video games coming out in the new year. So, without further ado, here are 2026's biggest game releases.
What they got?
Before we get into it, just a friendly reminder that this is by no means a 100% comprehensive guide to all of the games coming out in 2026, as many of those haven't even been announced yet. Also, as always, release dates are subject to change. I made a video very much like this one exactly a year ago in which I told you that GTA would be the biggest game of 2025, assuming it came out in 2025, which it didn't. So this is true in our regular monthly video game release videos, but it's especially true when we're talking about games that are 11 months away or games that don't even have release dates yet. So take all this with a grain of salt.
Okay, will do, Jackson, will do, I will do that.
On January 15th, Animal Crossing's New Horizons gets a new lease on life and also a new mortgage to pay off, and the beloved debt, yard work, and interior decoration sim comes to Switch too. And if you happen to be one of the 50 million people who bought Animal Crossing on the original Switch, you'll be happy to hear that you can upgrade to the Switch 2 version for just $5. Meanwhile, if you're still playing on Switch 1, you'll also be getting access to a ton of new features with the 3.0 update, which adds a bunch of stuff like hotel renovation and in-game items based on other Nintendo properties, as well as Lego's line of Animal Crossing sets. You can't spell purchase a video game in January without JRPG or a lot of other letters, but this is the time of year when fans of that particular genre are bound to be especially busy. Still on the 15th, there's Legend of Heroes Trails Beyond the Horizon, which is the 17th installment in the Legend of Heroes series, or the 13th installment in the Trails series, and a direct sequel to 2022's Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak 2. You got all that? That's coming to all the Switches, PlayStations, and PC. On the 22nd, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade comes to Nintendo Switch 2, and Xbox Series, as well as Xbox on PC. This includes the base game with all the visual and technical improvements that it got when it was ported from PS4 to PS5, as well as a whole side story that follows Yuffie, and the latest release will add a new streamlined mode that maxes out all of your party's stats and has attacks do 9,999 damage just so you can blow through the story without anybody giving you a hard time. Not quite a JRPG, but definitely JRPG adjacent, Dynasty Warriors Origins also hit Switch 2 that day alongside the Visions of Four Heroes DLC expansion, which also comes to the other platforms that game is already on. On January 26th, Highguard drops, which is the new PvP raid game from a bunch of ex-Respawn devs who worked on Titanfall and Apex Legends. You can definitely see some similar DNA, but it's going a very different direction, and instead of a bunch of wall-running dudes and Neil Blomkamp-looking mechs, it's got some fantasy flair, so if you ever wanted to bear arms while riding a bear, go nuts. That's free to play on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. Finally rounding out January's JRPGs, on the 28th, there's The Seven Deadly Sins Origins, an open-world RPG based on the hit anime series for PS5, PC, and mobile. And then on the 30th, there's Code Vein 2, the sequel to Bandai Namco's 2019 vampire anime Souls-like, which is on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. At some point in January, 2XKO will hit PS5 and Xbox Series, which is Riot Games' 2v2 fighting game featuring a roster of characters from League of Legends that's been in early access on PC since October.
League of Legends, I keep hearing about that. February, you going down every month? Ain't no way I'm about to play.
JRPG season continues into February. On February 5th, Dragon Quest VII Reimagined hits PS5, Xbox Series, both Switches, and PC. Originally released stateside for PlayStation 1 way back in 2001, and then 3DS 15 years after that, it is now getting another modern overhaul. JRPGs aren't exactly known for being concise, but this one is infamously beefy, so don't be surprised if you sink 100 hours into it just doing the main quest. If you'd like to play another overhauled version of a turn-of-the-century classic renowned for its role-playing systems, the original Deus Ex gets a nice shiny coat of modern paint courtesy of Aspyr, who most recently gave us remasters of the first two Tomb Raider trilogies. That one is on PS5, Xbox Series, Switch, and PC. If you'd rather just make a bunch of colorful characters hit each other in the face, My Hero Academia All's Justice is a 3v3 arena fighter featuring several dozen characters from the beloved anime series. That is on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC on February 6th. Still on the 6th is Neo 3, the third installment in Team Ninja's Toughest Balls Souls-like series, is actually its first true sequel, as Neo 2 took place before the events of the first game, which probably has no bearing whatsoever on the moment-to-moment combat that is the main selling point here. That's on PS5 and PC. On February 11th, Romeo is a Dead Man is the latest wackadoo action game from Suda51 and the fine folks at Grasshopper Manufacture, who gave us such cult classics as Killer 7 and No More Heroes. This latest one looks to be as stylish, absurd, and over-the-top as we've come to expect. That's on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. And just as a side note here, I've had the pleasure of interviewing a lot of really interesting people in this job, and Suda is one of my absolute favorites. We did an interview with him years ago where we asked him as many stupid questions as we could think up, and he answered all of them without skipping a beat with the weirdest answers imaginable.
If dogs laid eggs, would you eat the eggs?
No. Heck no, I wouldn't eat no dog eggs.
Yes.
Very happy to see he's keeping busy making weird, cool games.
Shut up,
On the 12th, Yakuza Kiwami 3 and Dark Ties hits everything but Xbox One. Yakuza 3 originally came out for the PS3 back in 2009, and though it was included with the remastered collection that came out in 2019, that version of Yakuza 3 didn't get any major graphical or gameplay improvements. Kiwami 3, on the other hand, is a full modern overhaul, so this should play as great as it looks, and the Dark Ties expansion is a whole new side story in case the regular base story of Kiryu managing an orphanage and beating a bunch of dudes' asses while he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt isn't a cool enough story on its own, which it is. It's a very cool story. It's a really sweet game. You should play this game. I love Yakuza. Still that day on Switch 2 is Mario Tennis Fever, which might sound like a fun, casual sports game, but it's also a very serious medical condition that can be deadly if not treated immediately. If you develop symptoms of Mario Tennis Fever while playing this game, please consult a Dr. Mario immediately.
It's a
stupid joke, but I went with it. On the 13th, we're getting High on Life 2, the follow-up to the excellent 2022 first-person Metroidvania. Between the first game, it's High on Knife DLC, and now this, I gotta give the team at Squanch Games credit for shipping 2.5 Metroid Prime-likes in half the time it took Retro to get Metroid Prime 4 out the door. Also, High on Life 2 is the only way you can legally purchase the classic 1991 Wisdom Tree platformer Bible Adventures for current consoles. That's right, they put entire bad NES games inside this other game that isn't even on Nintendo platforms that I'm aware of. On February 20th, East 10 Proud Nordics is the latest Japanese action RPG rooted in Scandinavian folklore, and it's actually an enhanced re-release of 2023's East 10 Nordics, but with enough added abilities, bosses, and levels that it's apparently very proud of itself. That's coming to PS5, PC, and Switch too. On the 24th, Tides of Tomorrow hits PS5, Xbox Series, and PC, which is set in a vibrant post-apocalyptic ocean world that is riddled with microplastics, and where the choices made by other players in their game will affect how the narrative in yours unfolds. On February 27th, Resident Evil Requiem, or the 9th mainline entry if you're keeping count, hits Xbox Series, PS5, PC, and Switch too. I'm fairly late to the Resident Evil party, but as somebody who liked 7, loved 8, and adored the remakes, I'm fairly lukewarm on what I've seen of this new one so far, but I'm also willing to give it a shot since the team has been knocking it out of the park with this series lately, and by lately, I mean for the last decade. Oh, also, any Switch 2 owners looking to play catch-up, Resident Evil 7 and 8, aka Biohazard and Village respectively, are also coming to the hybrid handheld that day as well. They got cloud-streamed versions on Switch 1, but this is the first time they will be playable locally on Nintendo hardware, so give them a shot if you haven't. On March 5th, Pokemon Pokopia comes to Switch 2, which sort of looks like Animal Crossing, except you play as a Ditto who is masquerading as a human being, something that will never not be completely unsettling. Why is that Ditto doing that? I don't know. They did that in the live-action film, and I wasn't fond of it. It was very weird to look at. I didn't want to see them doing that, and they did it anyway. Anyway, now it's a whole game. Hitting PC, Xbox Series, and PS5 on March 12th is John Carpenter's Toxic Commando, which is a post-apocalyptic co-op FPS that's been developed by the World War Z team with some input from the legendary horror filmmaker turned grouchy hardcore gamer, and it looks like it'll sit well with anybody wishing that Left 4 Dead hadn't been, well, abandoned in a seemingly deceased state. That same day on PC is Solasta 2, the follow-up to the well-received 2021 tactical CRPG, which should probably click well with anybody who's had their fill of Baldur's Gate 3 but needs to